Rain smashed against the windshield like furious fingers as I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my heart jackhammering against my ribs. The night was a dark tunnel lit only by the occasional flash of lightning and the pale glow of the dashboard. I wasn't supposed to be out here. I was supposed to be asleep, wrapped in the illusion of trust beside the man I married 7 years ago. But that illusion had cracked wide open 3 hours earlier when I got the email. Your loan application has been approved. Those 7 words crawled across my phone screen like a centipede, disgusting in their smug permanence. My stomach twisted. I hadn't applied for any loan. I hadn't even touched our joint accounts in over a week. But the email was addressed to me, my name, my credentials. And the sum, $28,000, was like a brick to the face. The world had tilted sideways then. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake, a scam, a clerical error. But the bank's app told a colder truth. The loan was real, processed, approved under my name and social security number, and, worse, it had already been moved to one of our linked accounts. A personal account I didn't remember opening. I called the bank. I froze the account. My voice had trembled with the chill of disbelief, but I forced the words through. Identity theft, I said. Fraud. Stop the transfer. Lock it down. Put every block in place. That should have been enough. I should have sat on the couch, waiting for dawn, confronting him calmly when he returned. But I knew him. Knew the gleam in his eyes lately, the way he'd been buzzing with anticipation, always checking his phone, making hushed calls in the guest bathroom. There was something he wanted badly. Something he'd do anything to get. The black SUV 2 cars ahead of me suddenly veered into a gas station, and my headlights caught the license plate. It was him. My foot pressed harder on the accelerator, fury rising in my throat like bile. Followed at a distance, killing my lights as I parked across the lot. I watched him step out, his umbrella snapping open against the downpour. He looked calm, excited, like a boy heading into a candy store. I didn't know exactly what he was buying, but I had my guesses. A boat, a motorcycle, or maybe that sleek, vintage car he'd pointed out last month when we passed it on Route 40, claiming he'd found a dealer who could get it for cheap. I stepped out, letting the rain soak me to the skin as I crossed the pavement silently. He was already inside the dealership, laughing with a short, balding man in a tan jacket. Their hands clasped briefly, and the man led him toward the back. I pushed the door open slowly, the soft chime lost in the hum of fluorescent lights and muffled thunder. The place smelled like rubber, oil, and dishonesty. I didn't wait long. Around the corner, past a display of glistening chrome rims, I spotted him again. He stood next to a cherry-red Camaro, fingers trailing possessively along its polished frame. The other man was tapping something into a tablet, nodding along as my husband spoke animatedly, gesturing like he was already imagining the wind through his hair. My stomach turned. I stepped out from behind the column. So, this is what 28 grand looks like. His head whipped around so fast I thought he'd hurt his neck. Laura? He said, blinking like I was a ghost. What are you? I could ask you the same thing. My voice didn't shake. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. The storm inside me had condensed into steel. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? His face cycled through emotions, confusion, panic, anger, then a smirk. That damn smirk. Look, he said, raising his hands like I was a wild animal. It's all in your name, sure, but we're married. It's our money now. I stared at him. No, you took it without telling me. You forged my name. You lied. He scoffed. It's not like I emptied our savings. I was going to surprise you. I was going to pay it back. This was just a jumpstart. An opportunity. I stepped forward, close enough to see the sheen of rain still clinging to his hair. You mean it was a theft? You stole from me. The dealer looked between us awkwardly, lowering the tablet. Should I give you 2 a minute? I ignored him, My eyes were locked on the man I thought I knew. I froze the account. I said, "The money's locked. There's nothing to transfer." His face turned red. "What?" "You're not getting the car," I said, my voice flat. "And tomorrow, I'm calling the police. This isn't just betrayal, Alex. It's a felony." His hands balled into fists, but he didn't move, didn't speak. His mouth opened and closed like he couldn't find the right lie fast enough. "Want the keys to the cabin," I continued, "and the storage unit, and the safe in your office. I want full access to everything now, or I go straight to the cops tonight." The dealer backed away quietly, pretending to fiddle with a clipboard, Alex's. Eyes glittered with something sharp. He was calculating even now, but I could see the panic bleeding through. He didn't expect me to fight back. He never did. "I was going to take you for a drive in it," he mumbled. "Let you see it first, I swear. I didn't think—" "No," I cut in. "You didn't think. Or maybe you did. Maybe you just thought I was stupid." Lightning cracked outside, briefly lighting his face in a wash of cold white. It made him look older, smaller, like the illusion of control he wrapped himself in had been peeled away. "I loved you," I said, my voice low now. "I built a life with you, and you cashed it in for horsepower and leather seats." He didn't reply, so I turned and walked out, letting the door slam behind me, the sound swallowed by the rain. But it wasn't over. Not yet. The loan was only part one of the story. What I'd find in his office the next morning would tear the last shreds of my marriage apart. And this time, it wouldn't just be about money. It would be about betrayal deeper than I thought possible. The storm hadn't let up when I got home, and I didn't care. I stood soaked in the entryway of our house. No, my house, I reminded myself, since I'd paid for the down payment with my inheritance, dripping water onto the hardwood floor, staring at the portrait of us from our 5th anniversary on the wall. He had his arm around me. I was laughing. He was smiling that crooked grin he used to wear only when I surprised him. Now I realized how much of it had been performance. How long had he been rehearsing? How long had I been watching a mask? I changed into dry clothes like I was moving through water, each step heavy with the weight of 1,000 small moments we'd shared. Every joke, every late-night whisper, every time he kissed the back of my hand absent-mindedly in public. Was it all currency he'd been spending against something else? A secret life I was just beginning to see? I grabbed the spare keys to his office from the junk drawer, the one he always insisted was just for old paperwork. I had never thought twice about that locked door in the back hallway. In a relationship built on trust, or the illusion of it, you don't always ask the questions you should. The key turned easily. My pulse quickened as the door creaked open, the musty scent of paper and dust hitting me like a wave. The room was small, windowless, lined with filing cabinets and a battered oak desk he'd claimed from a garage sale 2 years ago. It didn't take long to find the safe. He wasn't exactly subtle. He'd kept it behind a fake panel in the bookshelf, like this was some amateur spy movie. I pulled it out, setting it on the desk. Combination lock. My fingers hesitated. Then I remembered. Our anniversary. I turned. The dial to 1109, click inside was a mess of papers, receipts, and envelopes. Some already torn open, others unopened but clearly well handled. One by one, I laid them out like puzzle pieces. There were credit card statements under both our names, but I didn't recognize the accounts. There were emails printed out, correspondence with someone named M. There were bank statements with deposits and withdrawals that didn't match anything in our financial history. And then there was the kicker, a printed invoice for a storage unit rental under a name I'd never heard, Daniel M. Westbrook. Alex didn't have any cousins named Daniel, and he sure as hell wasn't using an alias for something innocent. I sat down. My knees couldn't hold the weight of what I was seeing. For months, maybe longer, he'd been moving money, hiding it under fake accounts and burner names. There were even flight tickets. 2 seats, round trip to Barcelona. Booked just a week ago. My breath caught. The other name on the ticket was Melissa Harding. I knew that name. She was a realtor, young, blonde, too many exclamation marks in her emails. She helped us look for vacation properties last spring. I remembered how Alex had insisted on keeping in contact just in case, even when I said we didn't need anything more. I pushed away from the desk, heart galloping, face flushed with rage. He had planned this. He had planned everything. The loan in my name, the fake storage unit, the car, the flight. He wasn't just buying a toy for himself, he was buying an exit. And worse, he was doing it with my name, my credit, my life. I paced, in a tight circle, fury igniting like a match in my chest. I picked up my phone and dialed my bank again, this time asking to freeze not just the one account, but all credit activity tied to my name. Fraud report, full lock, ID monitoring. I made them walk me through every detail. They confirmed the gear. Report was already logged, but I wanted it bulletproof. I don't care if he's my husband, I told the rep flatly. If he tries to open anything else under my name, I want you to treat it like he's a stranger stealing my purse. Yes, ma'am, the rep said softly. We've flagged everything. We're also initiating a full inquiry. By the time I hung up, it was almost 4 a.m., but I wasn't tired. I was thrumming with adrenaline. I sent a message to my sister, a lawyer in Portland. Need to talk ASAP. Alex committed identity fraud. Not a joke. I needed a paper trail. I needed protection. And I needed to see that storage unit. I didn't sleep. I packed a bag, clothes, documents, cash, not because I was leaving, but because I knew he might. At 6:02 a.m., I drove across town to the storage facility listed on the invoice. It was just off a dead-end street near the industrial park, the kind of place with cracked pavement and blinking. Neon signs half burned out. The woman behind the counter looked like she'd been awake all night, a styrofoam coffee cup steaming beside her. I'm here to check on a unit, I said, keeping my voice cool. Daniel Westbrook. She didn't even blink. Got ID? I handed her the fake invoice, acting like it was the most natural thing in the world. She squinted at it, typed into her system. Unit 314. Down the second corridor, left side. The hallway reeked of mildew and old cardboard. My footsteps echoed. I found the unit. Used the same combination he always used for bike locks. 9731. The door rolled up with a metallic groan. Inside were 3 large plastic tubs, a duffel bag, and a filing box. I opened the first tub and nearly dropped to my knees. It was filled with jewelry. My jewelry. Pieces I thought I'd lost. My grandmother's locket, the gold bracelet from our honeymoon, even the sapphire earrings he'd claimed he'd never seen when I tore the bedroom apart looking for them. The second tub held electronics, 2 laptops, a GoPro, an iPad. Some of them still in their boxes. The third was full of clothing. Women's clothing. Not mine. I sat back on my heels, surrounded by the evidence of a man I didn't know. The duffel bag was stuffed with cash, at least 10 grand if I was estimating. Right. And the filing box? Fake IDs, passport photos, a full second identity. He hadn't just planned to leave. He planned to disappear. And now I knew everything. I drove home in silence, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, the morning sun rising like a lie behind gray clouds. The roads were wet and gleaming, just like the double life he'd been living. I felt like I was floating above my body, every action automated, every breath measured. I was seeing the world through a veil of rage now, a glassy, sharp rage that didn't scream or cry. It calculated. He was still asleep when I walked in. Of course he was. The car dealership fiasco must have exhausted him. I stood in the bedroom doorway and watched him for a full 30 seconds. His face was peaceful, stupidly peaceful. He didn't know that the illusion had shattered, that I had seen behind the curtain. I didn't wake him. Not yet. Instead, I sat on the couch with a notebook and wrote down everything I had found. Every account, every name, every receipt number. I took pictures. I sent them to my sister, along with the line, "He's running. Fraud. Cash. Fake IDs. Flight plan. Legal advice." Needed immediately. She didn't even wait to call. Her voice was sharp and low, the kind she used in court. "You need to file a police report today. Don't wait. Don't warn him. This is federal-level fraud, Laura. Identity theft. Financial abuse. If he skips the country, they'll issue a warrant, but it'll be harder to track. You have to act. Before he knows you know." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. I was already ahead of her. I called the police. I told them everything. It felt surreal, spelling out my husband's crimes to a stranger, but I kept my voice even. Calm. Let them hear how in control I was. The officer took the report seriously, said someone would be sent out within the hour to collect physical evidence. I gave them the address of the storage unit, the names, everything. They were stunned at the detail. Most cases like this came with confusion. Victims didn't usually show up with color-coded proof and bank statements. I hung up and stood in the living room as the clock struck 8:14 a.m. That's when I heard him stir. He shuffled out of the bedroom, rubbing his eyes, still groggy, shirtless. "You're up early," he mumbled, yawning. "I thought you'd sleep in." I didn't respond. He stopped when he saw my face. The silence must have registered, or maybe it was the way I stood, arms crossed, feet planted like stone. "What's wrong?" he asked, frowning. I tilted my head, the barest hint of a smile at the corner of my lips. "Barcelona?" His entire body went still, like someone had cut the strings of a puppet. "What?" "Melissa Harding," I continued. "Round-trip flight. You really should have used a different email account." He blinked, swallowed. "I don't know what you're talking about." I threw the printed boarding pass at his feet. He stared at it. His lips parted, but no sound came. "You took out a loan in my name," I said. "You funneled money into a secret storage unit. You've been selling my jewelry, buying things under aliases. You forged my signature. That's not a misunderstanding." "Alex, that's a crime." His face changed then. A flicker of something darker passed over it. No more lies, no more charm. "You don't understand," he said, his voice lower now. "This wasn't just for me. I was setting us up. I was trying to build something by abandoning me," I snapped. "With a realtor you met 6 months ago? With a duffel bag full of cash and fake documents?" He looked away, jaw tight. "I know everything," I said, stepping closer. "The safe, the accounts, the money. You were going to disappear, Alex, and you were going to leave me with the debt. I was going to fix it," he muttered, but it was empty now. The conviction was gone. "No, you weren't," I said. "You were going to run, like a coward." He suddenly turned, moving toward the front door. "I need some air." I stepped in front of him. "The police are on their way." He stopped. His breath hitched. "You what?" "I filed a report this morning. Identity theft. Fraud. I gave them everything. The officer said it wouldn't take long. You won't be going anywhere today." His eyes darted to the hallway, to his phone, to the back door. "You'll make this worse," he said. And now his voice trembled. "Laura, you'll ruin me." "You ruined yourself," I said coldly. "And don't even think about running. They have your name, your fake names, your passport number. They'll find you." He ran his hand through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. I could see the gears spinning. He was used to charming his way out, but this time, I wasn't blinking. "You never really loved me," he said suddenly, his tone bitter. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. I loved you so much it blinded me. I defended you when my friends said something felt off. I made excuses for you when you disappeared for hours without explanation. I held on to this marriage even when you started treating me like an accessory. You used me." He was silent, breathing hard. "You're going to talk to the police," I continued. "You're going to cooperate, and then you're going to face the consequences, because this isn't just about me anymore. It's about what you're capable of doing to anyone." For the first time, he looked genuinely afraid. 10 minutes. Later, the knock came. 2 officers, calm, firm, polite. They asked to speak to him. He didn't resist, just stood up slowly, hands at his sides like he was walking into a dream. I watched as they led him to the squad car. He looked back once. I didn't. I closed the door. The silence afterward was massive. It was the sound of a life collapsing, but also of something new taking shape. I hadn't just exposed his betrayal. I had survived it. But healing? That would take longer. Because what he broke wasn't just our bank account. It was the foundation of trust, the very idea that love meant safety. And when I finally sat down, again alone, heart thudding in my chest, I whispered to no one, "You picked the wrong woman to betray." And I meant it. The day passed in a blur. After the officers took him away, I stood in the middle of the living room for what felt like hours, unmoving, staring at the indent on the couch cushion where he had just been sitting. My body was exhausted, my eyes dry and burning, but my mind wouldn't stop reeling. Every conversation we'd ever had was replaying itself in fragments, his promises, his reassurances, his fake concern when I cried over misplaced jewelry, or the rising bills he always said were being handled. He had crafted an entire life behind my back, and for too long, I let the small red flags pass like harmless flutters. I thought love meant forgiveness. I thought marriage meant partnership. But what we had wasn't partnership. It was manipulation with a wedding band on top. I didn't cry. Not then. Not when I started gathering his things into boxes. Not when I shoved his favorite jacket into a trash bag. Not even when I tore our wedding photo from its frame and dropped it face down on the kitchen counter. I was too full of something sharp and cleansing, clarity. By late afternoon, the detective assigned to my case called. She sounded young but decisive, and told me they'd already begun processing everything. The storage unit was secured. The fake documents were enough to press felony charges. I'd have to testify, of course, but the evidence was damning. "He's likely looking at time," she said. "You did the right thing." I thanked her, quietly. After I hung up, I sat on the floor and let my back hit the wall. And for the first time, I allowed the silence to settle. Not the heavy silence of fear or suspicion, but one that came with truth finally aired out. I could breathe. That evening, Melissa Harding tried to call me. I let it ring out. Then I blocked her. A message came through anyway, an email. She wrote a short paragraph, almost apologetic, like she was caught up in something she hadn't fully understood. Claimed he told her I was barely in the picture, that we were legally separated and just living under the same roof until the divorce. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Her name was on the flight. That was all the clarity I needed. And honestly, she wasn't my target. She was just another mask he wore. 2 days later, I filed for divorce. My sister flew in to be with me, and we sat side by side in the courthouse lobby while the paperwork was processed. I remember looking down at the signature I scribbled on the final page and feeling no sadness. Just a long, slow exhale. Like something toxic had finally been cut from my body. The news of his arrest traveled fast in our small circle. Some of our mutual friends reached out. Most were shocked. A few said they always felt something was off but didn't want to interfere. His mother called me crying. I told her everything. Calmly, kindly, but firmly. Your son didn't just betray a marriage, I said. He tried to destroy my life. And if I hadn't caught it when I did, he might have succeeded. She didn't argue. She just whispered, "I'm sorry," before hanging up. Weeks passed. The house grew quieter, lighter, as I cleaned, as I rearranged, as I removed every trace of him. I changed the locks, sold his car, deleted his playlist from our shared account, bought new sheets, a new toothbrush, a new version of myself. The bank helped reverse the loan under the fraud claim. The financial institutions involved confirmed the documentation of identity theft was airtight. It took time, months of statements, affidavits, and calls, but they sided with me. His name, in the eyes of the law, had become a stain. Mine had been cleared. Therapy helped too. I started seeing someone who didn't ask me to explain everything right away. She let me talk when I needed, sit in silence when I didn't. She gave me tools to rebuild trust in myself, to understand the depths of manipulation I had endured and come out the other side of. Eventually, I started laughing again. At stupid things, at sitcom reruns, at my dog's lopsided grin. I went out with friends, took a solo trip to the coast, sat on the beach with a journal and watched the waves erase footprints from the sand, over and over. That's how healing began. Not with a grand declaration, but with small, stubborn moments of peace. One night, months later, I found an old voicemail from him. Before it all unraveled, he was singing a love song badly, laughing, into the speaker, telling me to come home soon. For a second, my throat tightened. Not from longing, but from disbelief. That I'd once loved someone capable of so much darkness, that he'd once convinced me he was the safest place I knew. I deleted the message, and finally, I let him go. He took out a loan in my name. He tried to run, to erase me, to leave behind, a woman buried in debt and silence. But I didn't stay buried. I clawed my way out. I froze the account. I froze him. And when he shattered, I rose. Not just as a woman wronged, but as a woman remade.